Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Football League Cup podcast. As you know, this season's European competitions just came to an end over the past few weeks. That is the Champions League, Europa League, and not the Super League. Today, we are basically going to be reviewing all the key moments this season, and we're going to be giving some of our predictions for next season's European competitions. Today, I'm joined by Chris and Uma. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Hey guys, I'm Umar, as you know me from Discord, and you underscore Valley28. Chris?
Hi guys, it's Chris here, as you know. So Fred will fire us off with some of the stuff about the European competitions last year and what it's going to look like moving forward.
Yeah. So let's start off. I want to get your views on this season's European competitions. I think it was a bit less dramatic compared to the European competitions we've seen in the past few years. But what did you think about, especially the Champions League in general this season, Chris?
I mean, I think you gotta look at a few things here. One being that it wasn't just the European competitions that felt that way. Some of the Premier League games and some of the top league games felt quite similar to it. And I think you've got a few factors. One being no fans in the stadium, so players don't rise to the occasion because of those sort of things. And then you've got all the traveling, all the restrictions, all the stuff that have gone through, and people are a little bit more tactical in the sense of how they set up. There was a few good games, but I think it's one of those seasons that we can just write off and move forward from. But in the end, they were worthy winners. I don't think the finals were necessarily entertaining, but it's just one of those things when you get to a final, which we'll probably talk about shortly. But I think we'll be back to normal next year, and I think it will be a little bit more interesting than what it was. I'm not going to lie, I didn't watch too many of the games knowing that it was going to be the case, or I was watching a few of the games in between or flicking through between some of the games. And I felt a little bit switched off from them, and I think that's just the factors that I've just spoke about really on those ones.
Yeah, well, I mean, it has been a year to forget for most people. But what about you, Uma? What were your thoughts on this season's competition?
I agree with Chris. I think it was a bit underwhelming in compared to the previous years. We saw major comebacks with United and Paris and Ajax and Tottenham, Liverpool, Barca. We didn't see much of that this season. I think that is also down to the fans, but hopefully next season that changes.
Yeah, so we are going to start off by looking at some of the key matches in the Europa League. So first of all, we are going to start off with Manchester United versus AC Milan. I mean, when that draw came out, I just knew United were getting Milan because United have this tendency of getting big clubs in basically every draw in whatever stage. And I mean, United beat Milan comprehensively, a 2-1 win on aggregate to move on to the quarterfinal of the Europa League. Chris, what were your thoughts on that matchup in general? Is it what you expected?
It could have been a little bit more comfortable than it was. Again, Manchester United, I believe it was a set piece, wasn't it, that they conceded a goal once again. So obviously that just highlights why we talk about centre backs a lot. But the game was just a bit of a cat and mouse. Pogba's goal was the difference, wasn't it? So it was a good goal. It was one of those matches, really. I didn't think it was that entertaining. But, Manchester United got through. And it could have been more comfortable than what I thought was. The highlight of that was Ahmed, obviously, Diallo scoring his goal, which, was a good header. So I think that will stand him in good stead in the future. Because obviously Manchester United are very much fond of him because of how much money they paid for him, and obviously he's one for the future to look at. So I think that was the highlight, and it was kind of the togetherness of the squad. Milan surprised me a little bit. I thought they would be a little bit more attacking in their approach, but again, Serie A teams tend to be quite defensive. So you're not going to see big scores when you're against Serie A teams. So I think that's just the way it played out, and it was just Pogba's goal that was the difference at the end.
Yeah, what about you, Uma? What were your thoughts on the matchup?
I think there was a standout player in that game, and that was Kessie. He scored an unbelievable goal, which was unjustly ruled off.
Yeah,
That was a wicked goal.
yeah,
And it just marked the debut of Amad Diallo. Hopefully for the next future to come, giving him the confidence with that amazing header against Donnarumma as well. He's not short, is he? Um, and that Pogba, when Pogba came on, he just bossed the midfield, came on and just showed everyone levels and won the game for United.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, United progressed from the round of 16 to the quarterfinals, where they faced Granada, which was comfortable victory, 4-0 on aggregate. But the key standout in that leg was Ajax versus Roma, in my opinion. First leg went 2-1 to Roma, and second leg went 1-1, with Roma progressing 3-2 on aggregate. In my opinion, I expected Ajax to go through because they have some quality players like Neres, Anthony, etc. But Chris, how did you see that matchup going? Is it how you expected it to go, or?
I thought Ajax would get through. I'd agree with you. Again, it was a close knitted game in terms of it's a Serie A game again. So Roma were a little bit more apprehensive. They've got a few good strikers, so it could have gone either way for me. I'll be honest, I didn't really watch that game too much after the first leg. So it was one of those games where it could have gone either side. And I believe it was the last 10 minutes. It could have even changed then. So it was a close game, really. I would say it was one of those nights where someone didn't want to lose.
Yeah. What about you, Uma? Because you're a United fan, and I'm sure you were very keen on who was going to progress in that game after United beat Granada.
Yeah, I was mainly watching the United game, but I saw bits of the Ajax and Roma game. The first leg, it came down to the last few minutes. I think Roma scored in the
Yeah,
87th minute,
yeah.
and that ultimately won them the game. I think it
Yeah.
was a more contestable game than what we thought about it, because obviously the scoreline was pretty narrow as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, as I said, Roma progressed, so did United. Chris, you mentioned it earlier on. It was a crazy game. I did not expect that scoreline. United went through 8-5 on aggregate, which is amazing.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on that game? Because I think it was,
We've done it before against Roma, haven't they? If
Yeah.
anyone remembers. But United have that in them, and that's the thing that I have to mention to a few people, that they just need to have that more often than not, where they play without fear. Because sometimes you notice with Manchester United, they play with a bit of fear, and then clubs sense that and obviously score. And we saw that in the second leg, funnily enough. The complacency of the back four and those sort of things. But if you've got likes of Cavani, and he's a fantastic striker, I've been banging on about him for years, but I just felt Manchester United played to their strengths, which if they do that, they can beat most teams on their day and go and destroy teams, which you saw them in the Premier League do against the likes of Southampton and stuff, and they can do that
yeah,
more often than not. So, with Man United, it doesn't surprise me that they can do that. The thing that I found was in the second leg, the issue was again the defence, and that's the problem that Manchester United have had all year is the defenders. So, it should have been more for Man United, but Roma made it interesting in the game, to the point where even United fans, and I saw this on Twitter, that they were worried about even being 4-0 up, that they were still going to lose. And that's the problem that they've had for a long time, that they need to get it out of their head. But it's just one of those things. And the last game was a little bit interesting, but I felt United were a little bit lazy in the second leg, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And thought it was going to be easy. And you can't do that in games, because anyone can beat anyone on their day, and they can easily turn a result around, which it was close. And if it wasn't for David De Gea having some of the stops he made, then it could have been a different result, to be honest.
Yeah, well, you mentioned United's defense. That's quite clear that United need some new defenders. Well, you can hear some exclusive news on our last episode. The link will be in the description, where we talk about the potential transfers that we could see happening in the upcoming summer transfer window. So what about you, Uma? What was your thoughts on the game? Because when beating Roma 8-5 must have been a good thing to see as a United fan.
Yeah, the first leg we played some beautiful football. That Bruno goal, one of the goals of the tournament, I really enjoyed that one. All the goals were amazing. They got a pen. Well, at one point, we were 2-1 down, and their first goal, they got a pen. I didn't agree with that. I thought Pogba's hand was in a natural position, but end of the day, won that game. Second leg, was very shaky. I weren't too
Yeah.
keen on that second leg. It did feel like a loss, even though we got through. We
Yeah,
did
well,
lose,
you
but
did lose the match, though.
yeah. I think I took that loss to heart as well because it was
Yeah.
very scrappy. Without De Gea, I don't know where we'd be in that game.
Yeah. Well, speaking of
Exactly.
scrappy, I mean, you can't look any further than Arsenal. I mean, Arsenal have been terrible over the past few years, and it just got worse for them
Oh,
this
yeah.
season. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm a very big fan of Villarreal. Not my first team, but I support them. I watch them a lot. We beat Arsenal in the semi-final, went through a scrappy game, the first leg, 2 red
it was boring.
cards for both teams, 2-1 Villarreal win and a 0-0 draw in the second leg. Chris, what were your thoughts on that tie?
I mean, Arsenal, but you know how I feel about Arteta, but
Yeah.
Arsenal, I mean, the second leg, it was as if it was a training game for them. It was, you go into a game where you just need to score 1 goal to progress, and they didn't even look like scoring, and that's down to Arteta. His tactics were terrible. They didn't even attack properly, and but I have to credit Villarreal, and obviously, that might pain Man United fans. But what I'm saying is that Emery got his tactics spot on, and he knew that what Arteta was going to do, and he just stifled Arsenal in the midfield. They couldn't do anything. But they had some chances towards the end. It could have gone either way, but Arsenal last year just were all over the place. I mean, they've been like that for a few years now. And again, I'm surprised Arteta's still with a job. I'm sorry to say that, but because he's not going to get much back in the summer, if a couple of signings. But I just don't, think how can you approach a semi-final in that kind of attitude?
Yeah.
It just wasn't. It wasn't good enough for me. That
Yeah.
performance in the semi-final. You're in a semi-final. This is really your only chance to get into Champions League football, and you go and bottle it like that. I mean, for me, it's just like if I'm the owner of Arsenal and looking at it, I'd be saying, well, look at all the managers that are out now. I'd be looking at it and saying, well, why are they still with Arteta? I mean, the last 2 seasons, okay, he's won an FA Cup, but they always win the FA Cup. But there isn't. To me, it wasn't good enough. I was so surprised because they should have beat Villarreal if they were on form, but it was a bad performance for me. The second leg, I mean, the first leg was bad as well. The whole of the way he approached those games, I mean, it was down to Arteta for
Yeah,
me.
but
A lot of the fronts.
when I watched the game, I mean, Arsenal dominated both. Well, the second leg they dominated. They
But they
dominated
dominate all the
Villarreal,
time, though.
and that's when you give credit to Villarreal's tactics and their defenders, such as Pau Torres and Albiol. But I think watching Arsenal, if I'm being totally honest, I have reservations about Arteta as I've watched them play
Oh,
this
you
season.
changed
I
your tune.
think, yeah, I think he is not as good a
Yeah.
manager as I originally thought. But I still think, just like Ole did at United over the past few years, I think
No,
he
I
needs
understand
more players to be able to prove himself. I think he still has something in him, and as he develops, you never know
Yeah.
where he could be.
We'll see next season. But I'll let him speak in a minute. But for Arteta, he's had 2 seasons now. Okay, but he's made the signings, he's done the sales that he's wanted to do. We'll see what happens this summer, and we'll give him another year. I mean, Arsenal fans will say he's won a trophy and blah blah blah, yeah, the usual thing. But I just don't think Arsenal's a bit of a big job for him. I think he should have taken a little bit of a lower job or had some more experience.
Yeah,
I just think that Arsenal, next season we're going to see the same from them. He's not going to get hundreds of millions of pounds. Is what Arsenal are 6 or 8 players away from even contending the top 4, and that's just where they are, Fred. So he's not going to get that. The only way he's going to get that is like loans or player swaps, which a lot of clubs will have to do this season. So for me, it's going to be one of those to watch out for with Arteta and see what happens. But if all those managers were, just to finish off, if all those managers that were available now, Arteta probably wouldn't still be in the job. now they've had the meeting and said, "Oh, it's fine. We'll see what happens next year. We'll back you," and that's the end of it. But they were a bit hasty, I think, with that.
Yeah. What about you, Umar? What are your thoughts on the semi-final and your thoughts on Arsenal and Arteta in general?
I think during the game, I was a bit surprised with Arteta. I was surprised he took off. I think he took off Aubameyang.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did.
And
But
I
to be
was-
fair, Aubameyang was awful in that game.
I know, but
You need a goal.
Yeah.
You have to keep your main striker on.
he was ill, wasn't he? I know that, but they were quite reserved in the last 10 minutes. It didn't feel like there was any oomph with them. And Arteta, when it doesn't go his ways, if you look at him, he looks lost and confused. So, I don't know what he learned with Guardiola, but obviously not a lot. I just don't think he's Arsenal material, or they need something different for me. I just think next season is going to be the same for them. I hope he proves me wrong, but I just don't see it, Fred.
I just remember when everyone was like, Arteta was the main reason of Guardiola's success last season when they faced each other in the final. And I don't see any progress with Arsenal in the next few years. I'm sorry to say that, but as long as Arteta's there, I just don't see progress.
They're not going to get the back in, and obviously they've not
Yes.
sold the club. And I said that wouldn't happen, and people thought the club was going to get sold, and no, it's not, because they still want it. But he's not going to get what United are getting, like the 150, 200 million, net profit or sales and incoming. So he's not going to get that. So I don't know where they go. I think they messed up in the semi-finals because that was their only opportunity really to be credible last season.
Yeah, well, United and Villarreal progressed to the final on the 26th of May in Poland. Villarreal came up on top on penalties. I mean, it was a very nervy game, 1-1 in full time. Villarreal went up first with Gerard Moreno, who scored 30 goals this season. Just to give him credit,
player.
he's been amazing this
Good
season.
player.
I think one of the best attackers this season
Oh yeah, without doubt.
across Europe's top 5 leagues. But Villarreal edged it in penalties. I mean, that was one of the weirdest penalty shootouts I think I've ever seen in my life, to be honest.
Let me start off by saying that credit to Villarreal, because Emery got his tactics spot on from my point of view. But again, and I say this for all United fans, again, it's another set piece and another defensive mistake that, United could have gone on and won that game 1 or 2-0 in the first 90 minutes. And those are the differences in those games of winning trophies. And that's why, obviously, it's critical for them to have a new centre-back, because look how Maguire wasn't in the game. And I think if Maguire was in the game, United wouldn't have lost that game. And that's my personal opinion to it. But also, some of those players didn't look interested. Like, Rashford, obviously, he's had a lot of injuries this year. I understand that. But, you're in the final. You've been picked. Let's see what happens. Obviously, he's been cleared by the fitness team to play. When people keep talking about these injuries, but they get massive tests each week where they clear them for injuries and those sort of things. But people need to understand that. But I just think that there was a couple of key, Maguire not playing and those sort of things kind of disrupted it. But the penalty shootout, David De Gea, I mean, didn't even save or didn't even bother. I mean, you got to wonder now, do you want that kind of goalkeeper to still in your club? I mean, David De Gea's been a fantastic individual. I understand that. But the penalty shootout was absolutely shocking in terms of, some of the instructions he was given and what we saw. He wasn't even doing that. So I don't know what it is with penalties, but he's terrible at them. So I don't even know, I think Ollie has got a critical thing. I think we're going to see a lot more about the goalkeeper news in a couple of weeks from what I know. So we'll see what is happening with David De Gea. Because, at the moment, and Ollie's still unsure about Dean Henderson, which causes a problem. Do they need to do something else? But we'll touch on that in the transfer market. But the game was missing, Maguire, and I think United could have won by 2 or 3 goals if they had him. But again, credit to Villarreal. I said it wouldn't be easy if United didn't play to their strengths, and then Villarreal didn't let them, and that's down to Emery and his tactics. And he is a good manager with those sort of things. He's won quite a few Europa leagues, especially with Sevilla. So, he is very experienced in those particular finals. So, credit to them. And hopefully United, they need to learn from that loss next season. And it's imperative that they learn next season. And obviously, Ollie is now under pressure next season to deliver because of what he's going to get in the summer.
Yeah.
He is now going to have to deliver something quite extraordinary next season to call it further progression, because the club will be looking for that. And there's a couple of things that might happen. So, which we'll talk about that in the future. But, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. But what about you, Uma? What were your thoughts on the final? I know I saw you in the Discord chat. A lot of United fans all depressed from losing the final. I'm sure you've recovered now, but what were your thoughts on the final?
I just want to start off by saying, respect to Villarreal. They deserved the win. Straight up, I'm saying they deserved the win, and they played to their strengths. They minimized our strengths, and defensively they were unbelievable. Pau Torres, I think there's a lot of fans on Twitter that were saying that he is Lindelof 2.0. We saw that he actually isn't, and he's actually one of the better defenders.
Well,
and
I mean, Mark Goldbridge is now saying he's Harry Maguire 2.0, which is hilarious. I don't even know where he got that from now, but yeah.
Raul Albiol, he showed his experience, and he played a wicked game as well. I think with Maguire, I agree with Chris. If he was playing, I think we very much could have won the game. I think that's because the ball progression. We only had McTominay drive with the ball, and Pogba and McTominay, they were sitting deeper to protect Lindelof and Bailly, and it was only McTominay driving. So we saw a big gap between the defense and the attack. And the attack, they were staying with the defenders, which the defenders were playing deeper as well to stop our counter attacks. So I think if Maguire played, we would have seen more ball progression, we would have seen more attacks and more chances created.
Yeah.
And in terms of their goal, again, as Chris said, it was another set piece, and we need to stop conceding goals from set pieces, because I think around 50% have come from set pieces, and it's just unbelievable. But Gerard Moreno, credit to him. He's been one of the better players in Europe throughout the season. Like I said, 30 goals, and he scored a good goal. People may blame Lindelof. I'm not sure. I just think it was a good goal. We should have stopped the set piece in the first place. And Rashford, I think maybe Ole could have taken him off. I'm not sure, because Tottenham reject voice, he pocketed Rashford, and I think there's about 15 times he tried to take him on, but he couldn't take him on. He tried to cut in, but he wouldn't. I don't know. It was a difficult game, frustrating game, and Villarreal deserved the win. They had that one shot on target, and they took it.
Yeah. Well, 11 more in the penalty shootout, which we'll get to. But as you guys said, credit to Villarreal, credit to Jaron Moreno, credit to Unai Emery, credit to Pau Torres, especially Pau Torres, who, in my opinion, is one of the best centre-backs in the league. But what were your thoughts on the penalty shootout, 11-10 to Villarreal? I mean, David De Gea missing the only penalty, which is, ironic.
I mean, it was like...
Go on, Chris.
There you go.
I think for United's point of view, we scored all our goals, and De Gea, I think all the players scored their goals, and De Gea is not a penalty taker, yet he still missed his. Yeah, and I don't blame United for that. I think De Gea's point was where he didn't save 11 penalties, because he's a goalkeeper earning he's the highest earner in United at the moment. Yeah, I think he deserves to be that for the respect is shown to the club, but you have to be saving at least one. Come on, as a goalkeeper, not even any goalkeeper, a goalkeeper of the highest standards, you have to be saving a penalty, especially earning that much. And we saw that he had the notes on his towel, stuck onto his towel, and the sixth penalty where he went down the middle, a Villarreal player went down the middle, he decided to change and dived, and if he stayed down the middle, he would have saved it, and the game could have completely changed. And obviously, Ollie's got a big decision to make with Dean Henderson and De Gea. I mean, we have brought in Tom Heaton, so we'll have to see what happens. Go on, Chris.
I mean, as soon as the penalty shootout came up, I knew that United were going to lose because David De Gea can't save a penalty to save his life. So, wasn't it something like he didn't save the last 27 penalties or something?
Yeah, he hasn't saved a penalty since 2015.
My point now is, okay, so Ollie needs to be more brutal and say, actually, I'm sending Dean Henderson on for the penalty shootout. He needs to be aware of those things. You're in a critical final. I mean, I don't criticise Ollie too much, as you know, but that point was on him because that your goalkeeper, you should know that your goalkeeper hasn't saved penalties. So how's he going to save the net? If he's not saved the last 17 or what it was, how do you expect him to go and win the shootout for you? So he should have put Dean Henderson on and just changed it. And I've seen it before, and I've seen managers do that. So that's what he should have done.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. As I was saying in the Discord chat, by the way, you can click the link in the description to join our Discord server. Chat with many football fans from all over the world supporting many different teams about games, transfer news, football news in general, exclusive giveaways, etc. But as I was saying, I felt that he would have brought Dean Henderson on because I agree with everyone saying Marcus Rashford should have come off earlier on in the game. But I felt that maybe Ole had in mind that, if we go to the penalty shootout, Marcus Rashford is a very good penalty taker, so we might want to leave him on. So I was slightly surprised when he didn't take Dean Henderson off, but the game is past. United lost it. They're going to sign some players in the summer, so let's see what they're capable of next season, and we'll look forward to the Europa League next season. But now we're going to move on to the Champions League. I mean, I don't think you can miss a match in the Champions League. We're going to start off with Barcelona versus PSG, which was in the round of 16. PSG ended up going through, amazing performance from Mbappe at the Camp Nou, scoring a hat-trick. PSG ended up going through, was it 4-1 on aggregate? 5-2 on aggregate, yeah. So, Chris, what were your thoughts on that game in general?
I didn't really watch much of it, really, but it was an interesting game. But I think, again, if one of those teams just wanted a little bit more, but I didn't watch too much of that game. I don't know what you think, Umar, really about it, but I was quite busy that period. So, but yeah, it was an interesting game again.
Yeah, what about you, Uma? What are your thoughts on the game?
I think Mbappe, he just showed his class, how great a young talent he is with his hat-trick, an unbelievable hat-trick as well. And Moise Kean got his goal. And Messi scored a penalty, which I don't think was a penalty. I'm not sure about you guys. I don't think it was a penalty. I know it's a long time to remember, but
yeah, it's a bit hard to remember.
Yeah. And the second leg, Barcelona, Messi, an unbelievable strike.
Yeah,
what a goal that was!
It was an amazing goal. Top corner. Yeah,
I think that's one of the goals of the rounds.
I mean, Mbappe showed why Real Madrid want that kind of player because, they signed Hazard, who hasn't done it. So they'll obviously sell him at some point, but he's available in somewhere, interestingly enough. But I think Mbappe is that kind of player in the future that they will need to win a Champions League again. He's a top quality individual for his age. And he's got that skill about him, and obviously it's going to be interesting in the Euros because France are going to be difficult to beat. But Mbappe showed just in that game why he's the best youngster around at the moment.
Yeah. Well, as I said, PSG went through, and ironically, they faced the team they faced in the final in 2020, which was Bayern, and they also went through. PSG won 3-3 on away goals. It was an interesting match. Uma, what were your thoughts on that game?
I think Lewandowski was injured, and that played a massive part compared to the final. Yeah. Because Bayern created so many chances, and I felt sorry for them. because the amount of chances they created, I think to some extent they deserved to win, but they couldn't score. I think if Lewandowski was there, they could have won the game by some mile. But credit to PSG, they won the game and they done what they needed to win the game. And Mbappe again showed his class and scored a couple of goals. I think 1 goal, maybe. Yeah. Chris?
Yeah. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, Lewandowski. Again, the talisman. I mean, he broke the record in the Bundesliga. So, if he's not playing, then you're going to struggle, aren't you? So he can give you an extra 2 or 3 goals. So I think that was the difference.
Yeah.
Just Lewandowski being out, but Bayern Munich will need to plan in the future without Lewandowski, which they are currently doing. So they will be looking at a striker at some point, and that makes it interesting for next year. We won't talk about it now, but there's a certain individual that might be available then. So I'm sure they'll throw their name in the hat because the guaranteed trophies.
Yeah. Well, I think Bayern should go for Erling Haaland from Dortmund. But as you said, we're going to talk about it another day on a live show. Make sure you don't miss it. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell and catch our transfer live show. Chris is going to be delivering the news. So moving on to the semi-final, PSG went through. I mean, Real Madrid versus Chelsea. Big game. I was slightly surprised by the result with Chelsea going through 3-1 on aggregate. Chelsea obviously going on to win the Champions League, but I thought Real Madrid would just edge it out because they have the experience, the quality, and all of that. And Man City faced PSG, won the first leg, but PSG ultimately going through on Man City obviously going through on aggregate. What were your thoughts on the semi-finals, Chris?
Semi-finals were Chelsea versus Real Madrid. I think Chelsea Tuchel did a brilliant performance against them, so they played quite well and they looked pretty good. And Man City again were good as well, getting through. And I just think that they weren't great games, but they got through in the end, and it made for a nice and boring final, which that's what it was, to be honest. So we'll talk about the final in a second, but I think Chelsea against Madrid was a big game because beating them, I think, they gave them the confidence.
Yeah.
And they know how to win Champions Leagues. Sorry, Man City.
Yeah. What about you, Uma? What are your thoughts on it?
I was watching the Madrid and Chelsea game, and from that game, what I saw was that the Chelsea players, man to man, they were just faster and they were quicker. They're winning the second balls, and I think that proved the age of the Madrid team as well.
Yeah, there was no transition.
Yeah, Ramos was also injured, which played a big part, and I think Chelsea, they deserved the win because they were the better, faster, more clinical team overall.
Yeah. But Man City and Chelsea went on to the final. Chelsea coming out, winning the game narrowly, a 1-0 goal, a brilliant pass from Mason Mount and Kai Havertz scoring. What were your thoughts on the final? Because in my opinion, I think I expected Chelsea to win because I just felt that Chelsea would have a bit more drive and a bit more experience compared to Manchester City. Chris?
Well, the unfortunate thing is that Pep decided not to play a defensive midfielder, which cost him the game, and his tactics were a little bit off. Which again, he didn't have a striker, and I keep saying this about Man City that last year you won the Premier League quite easy because people weren't, you had the ability to do it, but people look at you and know that next year, he's going to have to buy a striker in the summer because he doesn't have Aguero anymore. He didn't have any output from the front, and Kevin De Bruyne going off was the end for me. As soon as that, they lost. So, but they didn't have any spark in it. I mean, Foden had a chance, but that was a fantastic block by the Chelsea defender. But there wasn't enough. They only had 2 or 3 chances. Was it 1 or 2, 3 chances in the game? Minimal, considering what. But Kante played an amazing part in that. One of the best defensive midfielders to ever grace the Premier League for sure. Yeah. But it was a boring game. I'm not going to lie, because I was watching it. I was sitting here with a group of my friends, and then we were watching it. We were dissecting the game as we do, but it was incredibly boring. And I have to say that but Tuchel does that to teams. Like, he doesn't play attractive football. That's the type of football he plays to win trophies. Mourinho used to do it. He's doing the same, and that's fine. But it was just such a boring final.
Yeah.
But they always are, though. And
Yeah.
Liverpool Tottenham was a boring final. So, no one wants to lose it. But but can I just say that Werner is absolutely shocking striker. I mean,
Well, to be fair, I'm gonna come in there. I think his finishing has been terrible, like terrible. I'm
His
probably a better
positional's
finisher than
fine.
him, but his runs, etc. I've been watching
Yeah.
Chelsea over the past few weeks, and I think he plays a pivotal role in how Chelsea play, and I think that's why Tuchel continuously picks him in the starting lineup.
Yeah, I get that. I get his positional play because I say, well, he has loads of chances, so clearly he's doing something right to get in those positions. But strikers can do that, but he can't finish. I mean, his awareness of like his first touch. If he chested it down. Do you remember? He chested one down and then he shot. But he could have took another touch or look up and done it across the left-hand corner. He just can't finish, and this is the problem I've said many times, that you can buy players from different leagues and think, oh, it's going to be fantastic. And they do flop. Chelsea have done it before with the likes of Shevchenko, Crespo have done it, come over, and Samuel Eto'o, who haven't really done anything. But Werner just can't shoot, and he can't stay on side. And that's why Chelsea and Tuchel's saying, well, I need a striker. So, Chelsea fans who are starting to think, oh, we need a winger and stuff, they're not looking for that. They're looking for a striker. Because you cannot go into next season with Werner as your front striker, because you're not going to compete. You cannot. I mean, he could have scored 3 or 4 goals in the first 20 minutes, and he missed every single one of them. And his touch, he rushes he rushes. The only thing that I credit Werner for is that he keeps going. I mean, he keeps going, which that's a nice figure for him. He keeps going, so fair enough. But he gets into those positions. That's fine. he just can't finish. I mean, I just I feel sorry for him for a little bit, but because he scored so many goals last season. But in the Bundesliga, it's different.
Yeah.
He's on a bigger stage now, but I feel sorry for him because it's not been a good year for him, and hopefully he turns it around. Hey, I mean, I've seen miracles before, so but I just think that they're going to, they are looking at the likes of Lukaku, which doing what he did last season. So Chelsea are definitely going to get a striker this summer. How many chances he's going to have? I would even think about switching him as a striker and playing him in a slightly different position, maybe, because he likes to go out on the wings and pass through. Have you noticed that with him? So.
Yeah.
Who knows? But Chelsea deserved to win that game. I mean, Man City didn't do anything enough, and they brought Aguero on too late in the game and stuff like this. So Pep got his tactics wrong the same way as Oli got his tactics wrong against Villarreal, and that was it really. But next season will be more interesting, I think. But again, I don't rate Chelsea to win the Premier League or anything like that next season.
Yeah. So I just want to say thank you to Umar for coming on. He's been amazing. It's his first time on the Football League Cup podcast, but hopefully he's going to be coming on many more times. Thanks again to Chris for taking time out of his day to come record the podcast. And you may have realized about our website, it's probably not available for you now. We are doing some maintenances on it to make it better for all of you. You can still watch all our YouTube videos. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell while you're there. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And our Reddit page, it will be coming soon, so look out for that. And Chris, is there anything you want to say before we wrap it up?
No, I'd say moving away from the European competitions and stuff, that there's going to be a busy couple of weeks going on with transfers and stuff. So make sure that you listen to my particular news podcasts and those sort of things, because there's been some news come out recently, the usual shenanigans that happens before the windows. But make sure you join our Discord, because I will be updating in accordance to that. Or we've got our new Manchester United handle that just deals with Manchester United transfers. You can find that on the pinned tweet and Twitter. So just keep an eye on a few things, especially in the next couple of days, I would say.
Yeah. And And also look out for our upcoming transfer live show. As I said, we will be going live on the day the transfer window begins, which I think is on the 7th of June. Again, I want to say thank you to Uma for coming on and Chris, and we'll see you in the next podcast.